Welcome back! Or, if you found yourself watching a middle episode of a leveling series without watching any of my other videos, just welcome, you freaking weirdo. Anyways, this is the moment you've all been waiting for, and you didn't even know you were waiting for it until the last 20 seconds of the last episode. So, without further ado, I present you with God's Dick, my plus 14 double heavy trip burning rose. This thing is absolutely stupid. Mutant Hearthunter Belair gives 19% range damage and 10% additional damage with round trip. If my gun was plus 15, it would be an even 20%, but who the hell cares? The odds of plus 14 to plus 15 are so stupidly low that it would almost never make sense to do for that extra 2% damage. Then, on top of that, we have the Expert Archer enchants on the gun at 2% ranged attack damage per level of Expert Archer. The gun is EA3, EA4, so the total of EA7, or 14%. Plus, there's an inherent 15% range damage from the gun. If we round up a couple numbers, it's about 30% from the weapon and the enchants, and 40% from the cards, for 70% ranged attack damage and 20% round trip damage. The thing absolutely slaps. Look at this. It's literally 100% more damage. Before, after. Before, after. Before, after. God's Dick is an absolute monster. Just mowing these things down. Rebel used to be easy mode leveling. Like, it always had been. Like, I made a video probably a few years ago about how Rebel is, like, a KS machine. The problem is that at higher levels, you weren't able to one-shot the higher HP enemies, and the knockback from round trip would slow down your leveling. But now with OCP gear, round trip is a one-shot skill on most non-boss type monsters in the game, and can be used as your primary leveling skill. I wish I could stay in Juperos just a little longer, but a side goal of this series is to showcase multiple places to level, so even though Juperos 3 would be totally awesome to continue leveling in, it's time to move on. To do so, I did the New World questline to gain access to Manuk and El Dicastes, and I recorded that quest, but it's not really worth watching. But this lets me gain access to the Manuk bounty board for centipedes, hills lions, and tatachos. I used a nature dress for this because of the brute monsters and hitting around like 140k on them. The map is pretty densely populated, which makes it an overall good place for experience. The bounty boards are a nice bonus, but they're kind of far out of the way, and you lose a lot of time traveling to them. I wouldn't say this map is particularly exciting, but it's a completely viable option. I've leveled this method before, and I would say it's kind of easy to get discouraged when a map is not as good as the other options, and to be blunt, 120 to 150 is a bit of a slog. So while in the spirit of testing out different leveling maps that are not amazing but not terrible, I went to Scaraba level 2 next. The level range for these guys is 124 to about 150 in theory, and they're earth element, so nature dress works here too. With Fire Converter, I was able to hit 178k with round trip, and the max HP here for these guys is 67k. So the overkill is simply gratuitous and guarantees my HP SP leech always tops me off. My only tip for Scaraba is not to waste too much time mobbing the bugs, because they do get tired and stop chasing sometimes, and also when you do kill the pack, try and end up near an egg because it's free leech chance and does give some extra experience. Scaraba used to be a lot better when the bounty board range was reasonable. Now you need to be 140 to even take the Scaraba quest, and by that time you want to be getting out of Scaraba, not into Scaraba. But anyways, I'm not a huge fan of Scaraba, so I decided to try to give Thor Volcano a try. I was looking at mobs on the Divine Pride database to see what fell in my level range, and apparently the monsters in Thor do. The damage was not an issue with Icefall plus water converters, but the problem was the mob density. I wouldn't recommend this for most people to level because the mobs have quite strong and fast attacks mixed with some heavy hitting fire magic. Sword Guardians spear boom you on sight, and Bow Guardians hit you really hard and fast from practically off screen. You can see that the experience from each mob is roughly the same as Scaraba with a lot more risk involved. Because there's such fewer mobs on level 1, I thought level 3 might actually be easier because I could happen to fly wing to bigger mobs and get more leech chances. Hitting around 300k per round trip on fire mobs, any leech would top me off. I found Thor to be a lot more trouble than it was worth until I located Ifrit. I did some hit and run with Fire Rain and it worked really well, and I was doing 1.9 million damage per shot. The hardest part about killing Ifrit was actually the trash mobs around him, not the boss itself. Honestly, killing him was the only way I could salvage the time I lost on this battle manual, so the fact that he gave me a cool 38 million experience was enough to push me all the way up to 130. So I finished out the battle manual and went over to Old Glast Heim to try some mob farming in phase 2. For Old Glast Heim, I brought along a Magician Knit Hat for 25% extra damage to undead, plus 25 SP restored per undead kill. If it weren't for the guaranteed infinite SP, I would potentially stick with Vanargand and Fenrir Chain, but the Knit Hat also gives some damage reduction, which is always nice when you can't wear a shield. At this point, I finally learned and brought along a Deviant Fallen Angel Wing. I could still one-shot with it, so no reason not to use it. I recommend bringing some kind of movement speed increase to close the distance on the Raedric archers because they outrange round trips somewhat. Some healing items are absolutely necessary. Leech is nice, but you can't always rely on it during this awkward stage. Because this is my first time trying this setup on Rebel, I didn't bring my MVP gear along, but I guess 2-shot with 1.3 million damage from Fire Rain will have to do for now. 6 million experience in the bank. From here, I just ran circles, killing the respawns. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared and didn't bring extra Guarana candy for Agi up, so I killed less packs and it took more damage than I normally would have. Because of this, I missed out on killing the commanders with enough time to spare on my battle manual, so I missed the EXP boost on Amdarace, which is very unfortunate, but I'm mostly just demonstrating this method for the sake of the video and not for optimal experience, so it's not too disappointing for me. I also can't be sad about a 2.1 million damage Fire Rain on Amdarace. I was actually really close to 2-shotting him. I think it was like 30k damage off or something. So, I said in the beginning, but 120 to 150 is a grind. So it's been a long episode so far and I need a level boost. So I did some cheater leveling and high turn-in. I'm so sorry! The combo is Red Lictorns and Incarnation of Marok. I opted to do Icefall and no Elemental Converter for this because I could still one-shot the Red Lictorns and I wouldn't be at disadvantage against the Incarnations. Water Converter and Abyss Thrust wasn't quite doing enough, so I found that this combo worked the best. I would probably do a lot more damage if I had Platinum Altar, but that's not in this build. The TI group is a pretty nasty combo, but it wasn't too bad for me, though I didn't see too many other people leveling there. I did the high turn-in all the way till 140. So sorry. I considered doing Bifrost Tower, but the whole entrance quest and the mob densities on the map looked really inconvenient and bad on paper. After this leveling range, I definitely felt the burn. I personally really dislike the middle phase of the game right now. 120 to 150 is just awful. Looking back, 170 to 175 felt way faster than 125 to 130, which is just a really odd state for the game to be in. And I think it's been this way for quite some time now. At the risk of drawing out this video any longer, I'll call it for now. Next time will be 140 to 175. You heard it right. The whole enchilada. I'll see you there.